How did you first meet the Lord? What was it like? How did it happen? There was a time in my life when I thought the story of my encounter with God was that dramatic moment as a sophomore in college when, out of the desperation of loneliness and lostness, you know how college kids are, I cried out to God, and in some miraculous way, God heard me and came to me in a way that I cannot even explain. And God became real to me, so real, in fact, that I heard a call to Christian ministry that changed my life forever. That was and is a precious moment in my life. But it is not really the beginning. It's not really the beginning. The closest I can get to the true beginning of my relationship with the Lord was on June 1st, 1953, when a great tornado blew through my hometown, in fact, through my neighborhood in Worcester, Massachusetts. It was an F4 or F5 tornado, they're still not sure, with winds estimated at 327 miles an hour. And when that tornado had run its course, 93 people were dead, 10,000 were left homeless, and our neighborhood and city looked like a war zone. That afternoon, in the frightening swirl of the storm, my mother gathered up my older sister Karen and our baby brother Steve and me and brought us to the cellar of our little Cape Cod-style house. There, in the misty pitch blackness, she cradled us in her arms as the winds roared outside and transformers exploded and glass shattered and darkness came. Parts of the roof were torn from our house on Calumet Avenue, and I still can remember the sound. I didn't know it then, I only learned it later, but my mother thought we were going to die. So she pulled us children as close as she possibly could and told us that if we were separated, we were to meet at the throne of Jesus. And that word brought peace to my little boy's heart. Somehow in those words I knew Jesus loved me and that I was safe in the storm with my mother and with the Lord. And I was just 4 years old. What I love about that memory is that it had nothing to do with any affirmation on my part of some great theological construct or religious dogma. In fact, it had nothing to do with me reaching out to God through my mother. God reached out to me. That was my beginning. And I'll bet if you think back over your life, you'll discover a time, or maybe many times like that, when the Lord reached into your moment and touched you with his amazing, gracious love. Oh, remember those moments. Cherish them. And let what happened back there in the beginning shape how you live into the future. This church is built upon this foundation of grace. No matter who you are, where you are from, or what you've done, we believe God loves you and is reaching out to embrace you as God's own child. And we believe it is our job to embody that love to each other and to the people who live all around us. And not only that, but we believe that one of the missions of our church is to invite and recruit others to join us in the ministry of grace. So you're invited. If you're up to it, come and be a part of us. You see, there's a lot of hateful religion out there. Someone has said that religion seems to be destroying the world today, piece by little piece. And it does seem as if at the heart of every destructive moment we experience during the course of every day, there is some religious group or some religious nut behind it. There are a lot of religious people who treat others like dirt. There are a lot of religious groups that practice exclusion and judge some people to be unworthy of God's love and their respect. And the only way to counteract this is to create church communities where people remember how God's love came to them at the beginning, unconditionally and without even expecting it. If you know you have been loved unconditionally, then you will know that you must bring God's love to others. This is one of the foundational commitments of this church. So today I'm calling you back to the future. A second part of the John the Baptist story that I love is when it says that all Judea and all the people of Jerusalem went out to be baptized. Now you see, in those days there was no such thing as a personal faith. Oh yes, individual people had a personal relationship with God, but they understood that their personal faith was lived out as part of a larger community. I know you've been looking at this magnificent pipe organ. I can see some of you looking past me at that magnificent pipe organ. It will be so exciting when we get to hear it sometime in January. And as some of you know, many of the pipes come from an 1862 Henry Urban organ that was rescued from destruction when St. Peter's Catholic Church in Brooklyn, New York was being demolished. Can you imagine that these pipes sang their song of faith way back when Abraham Lincoln was President of the United States? And soon they will sing their song again. But here's the thing about this wonderful organ. One pipe can make a pleasing sound, but two pipes can harmonize. 3 or 4 pipes may make a chord, but 4 or 5 chords can make a song. All told, there are nearly 3,000 pipes in this pipe organ. And its majestic musical power will be unleashed when the whole community of pipes work together to sing their hymn of faith. In the same way, God intends people to live in community. My friend Mavis was right when she told me she could worship God just as well working in her rose garden as she could by listening to the young preacher down at the First Congregational Church on Sunday morning. And every Sunday morning, while we were all in our seats at the old First Congregational Church, there was Mavis a few doors down the street in her rose garden. And she was right about that, you know. You can have wonderful religious experiences just by growing roses by yourself. But you can't heal the hearts of sexually abused children. You can't help build a neighborhood of homes where families can raise children in a safe and healthy environment. You cannot do by yourself all the good that we can do together. Every year we have this thing called the turkey hunt, the great Tellico turkey hunt. Bob Puckett takes on the persona of Dr. Deadeye Puckett, the great turkey hunter. He asks us to buy turkey hunting licenses for $25 so he can go and bag a turkey with all the trimmings to give to a needy family at Thanksgiving time. And the need is so great, especially this year. So last month, Bob went hunting, and you probably have noticed there's not a turkey to be found anywhere around here. Bob bagged about 600 turkeys and all the trimmings. About $14,000 worth of generosity from all of you. Together, as a community of faith, our song sings louder and brighter than when we try to go it alone. Community. God created us to live in community, and not just for the sake of others, but for our own health and joy. Yesterday afternoon in our Founders Chapel, I had the honor of performing a wedding ceremony for Vi, Salt, and Norm Pleasant. Norm and Vi knew each other from years ago as members of the Oak Ridge High School class of 1952. After graduation, they went separate ways, married other people, but then years later, Vi lost her husband, and sometime later, Norm lost his wife. And through some amazing miracle of Cupid, played by Norm's sister, who happens to be Vi's best friend, these two beautiful people met up again and fell in love and were married yesterday afternoon at something like almost 80 years of age. In community, we share wonderful joys and deep sorrows. On Friday, we walked with Joyce Nouse and her family through a memorial service for her husband, Phil. It is a time of great loss and grief for the Nouse family. In community, we bear one another's burdens and support each other through the hard times of life. So I'm glad that one of our church's foundational values is being a community of faith. Our founding pastor, Carl Burke, once told me that he discovered something important about the people who came to live in these parts. Many of them, Carl said, are lonely. They've pulled up roots from hometowns and families and support systems to begin a new chapter of their lives here. And there is uncertainty about what the future will hold. So we minister to loneliness and apprehension by reaching out to others in friendship. Do you see why we have friendship cards? Do you see why we turn to each other and greet each other on a Sunday morning? Because there is a stranger among us who needs to have a friend. We create support structures, and we invite people to belong. In this increasingly impersonal world, people yearn to be accepted and to be known for who they are. So we work hard at bringing people into the family and knowing them and letting ourselves be known. Don't you think it's wonderful that everybody here knows that Rhonda and Terry Blevins met on eharmony.com? And while Shannon Meadows loves working with power tools, Tim Meadows loves working with beer. I love that people know that we had to buy John Orr a new robe because we were not going to let him wear his own robe with the emblem of the University of Alabama on the front. And everybody knows that Darla Orr may be a little woman, but she's got a really big voice. And of course, I don't even have to tell you that Bob Puckett is known as the... And that there is a 50-50 chance on any given Sunday that Bob will forget to turn on his microphone. And of course, we know that Bob's son, Tim Puckett, is a great jazz musician in Paris, France, and that he gets all his talent from his mother, Jane. It's wonderful to know each other and to be known just not as members of an organization or as a church staff, but as people. Sandy and I cherish that you knew our pain when our daughter lost her baby. And we are excited to share our joy with you next Sunday when Bethany and Keith bring their new baby girl, Avery, to Tellico for the very first time. You are our family, and we love you for making us your own. So let's go back to the beginning, back to the future. Let's never lose sight of the foundational value that we are a community church. We are here to bless the communities all around us with God's awesome love and to share God's enfolding love with one another. So today I'm calling you back to the future.